I can't help myself. It's a gear episode. So you're a consumer, maybe even an enthusiast, and you're looking to buy 2 new lenses to add to your kit for stills and video. What are you getting? For me, it's simple. I am going with something with a 35mm focal length and an 85mm focal length, but in the Micro Four Thirds format specifically, I am getting a 20mm 1.7 and the 42.5 1.7, both from Panasonic. Now both of these lenses are primes, which means they won't zoom, but this will cover more than 90% of what I shoot in terms of stills and video. In fact, I've shot almost exclusively on these 2 lenses for the better part of this year. So let's look at the 20mm first. This is a slightly narrower field of view than a typical 35mm focal length. It works out to be about 40mm, but this is still a great focal length because it's just wide enough for everything that I need to shoot, but it's also not as narrow as a typical 50. Now this is a great do everything lens. You can do everything from environment portraiture to landscapes to street photography. You can bring it along to dinner because it's so small. Just a great overall lens. This is one of those lenses where if you need to take a portrait, you take a few steps forward. If you want a wider shot, take a few steps back and it won't be too cramped. Now think about it, if you buy anything wider than a 17mm in the Micro Four Thirds format, then you're gonna start seeing distortions on people's faces, on people's bodies. You can't shoot people with anything wider than that. Now say you buy a 25mm and that's great for street photography, for portraits even, but what if you want to take along a dinner? All of a sudden, that field of view is just a little too narrow to be discreet. Another option is to get the 17mm 1.8 from Olympus, and that's a great lens too, but I've tested that side by side with the 20mm, and the 20mm to me is really obviously sharper than the 17mm. Oh, also the 17mm is significantly more expensive. So that's the 20mm, it's small, it's sharp, it's versatile. So moving on to the 42.5 1.7, this is an absolute gem of a lens. I love this lens, it's definitely my favorite, so I'm definitely gonna be biased in this section. It's an 85mm equivalent on full frame, so it's great for portraits. It's also got image stabilization, which is really important because I use the G7, it doesn't have in-body stabilization, so I need that on the lens. What sets this apart from the 45 1.8 from Olympus and the 42.5 1.2 from Panasonic is that this can focus in at 31 centimeters. That's a really close focusing distance for a lens of this focal length. The other 2 lenses, they have to stay out at 50 centimeters. That means with this lens you can get some really nice close-ups and some almost macro shots. Think about it, you buy the Olympus or the Panasonic and you lose the close-up capabilities of the 42-1.7. Buy the Olympus 45mm and you lose image stabilization, which is really important because I use a G7. It doesn't have in-body stabilization. Buy the Panasonic, you gain a stop of light, but you're also losing a grand more straight out of your pocket, and I don't know if it's worth it. So the 42.5 1.7, it's got stabilization, it's sharp, it's versatile. Are you seeing any patterns here? So why not buy a Pro Zoom? The 12 to 35 2.8 comes to mind, and if you buy the 20mm and the 42.5mm, you'd be spending almost the exact same amount of money as if you bought just that one Pro Zoom. And that could work. You gain weather sealing, you get faster focusing than the 20mm, you gain better low light because of the IS, and you have a wider focal length. So what do you lose if you go the Pro Zoom route? Well, you gain extra weight and size. The 12 to 35 is actually a third of the weight more than the 20mm and the 42mm combined. So that means you won't be as carefree walking down the street with a light lens, say like the 20mm. Also, you're gonna lose the shallower depth of field that you can get from the 42.5 1.7. Ultimately, it's up to you though. Buy 2 primes and you get a shallower depth of field, you get some macro capabilities, and you also get a smaller and lighter package. Go with the Pro Zoom, you get weather sealing, you also get a wider field of view, and you also maybe get better low light capabilities. For me, I'm sticking with my primes ironically because they're both versatile and also give me specialized features that the 12 to 35 just can't match. So will I buy a Pro Zoom in the future? Well, who knows, right? I mean, things change, time passes, and before you know it, this video is over. Let me know in the comment section down below what 2 lenses you pick and why. That's always the most important part. I know you guys are typically quiet in the comment section down below, and I think that's why they call it the silent majority, but they really should call it the silent minority because there's really not that many people on my channel. But other than that, have a great week.